Great rhythm on that swing.
There's so many people that play video games in general. It's such an excellent opportunity to get your music out there.
There's no other medium that has, you know, literally millions and millions and millions of people playing, interacting, coming back to it over and over again. Video games are a big business, $10 billion in sales. And ultimately what we realized was that that real estate in video games was pretty valuable. Video games, if it's done right, you know, it's reflecting reality in many ways. Nobody wants to compromise the creative integrity of the game. That is not what this is about. It's probably the only medium that somebody can go to outside of computers and the internet, where they literally play the game, interact with it, pass it along to their friends or play with their family members, come back to it over the course of several days, over several weeks, over several months, and they interact with it over and over and over again. When you're in a movie theater, when you're watching a television program, or even if you're looking through a magazine, whatever you're seeing in the form of an advertisement is ultimately interrupting what you're doing. A brand placement doesn't interrupt because it's part of the actual gameplay, which is what makes it unique.
That's about right.
As much product placement, you know, brand placement as you see in movies, maybe reality-based TV shows, and in video games, I don't think we've begun to even, you know, hit a threshold in video games. I mean, we're nowhere near that.
Putting your music on a video game is like a soundtrack. And every time you play, your play is different, and you got the same music going on. It's just, it's almost natural. And so, video games is, for me, is an industry that is going to take over the music industry, I think.
It's already taken over the porn industry, and the porn industry was bigger than the music industry.
Think about it. Can you imagine what would happen if video game companies started signing bands? It's a possibility. Why couldn't they? They have the necessary means of getting the music out there, and if they can release it with a video game, man, they're set.
Yeah, a video game like Grand Theft Auto sold like 4 or 5 million copies at $50 a piece.
A video game you get more for $50 than a CD, for $25, $30 sometimes. The music industry needs to adapt.
You must never forget the essence of your sport.
Millions of people buy video games, and if you have one song in a video game, that's millions of people who know it. Happens a lot.
Happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, I heard a song in a video game. I went out and bought all your albums. There's definitely less pressure writing a video game-oriented track than an album song. And sometimes they come out better because you write under less pressure and you just, okay, let's just do it. And then you sit back, wow, it's a pretty good song, you know.
We have a number of songs on video games. I've even lost track.
Yeah, I lost track. Must be like 15 to 20 games out there without music on it.
Video games have every type of person you can think of. Hip-hoppers, punkers, druggies, junkies, DJs. Everyone plays video games. That's the wave of the future. The video games is a medium to be reckoned with.
Check it out, 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 check it out.
Whoa, check it out.
We didn't try the basics. We just immediately started to try and make this big, huge cartoon, and of course it's kind of a disaster, but it taught us everything we needed to know.
If you just think about Superman and you think about Seinfeld, you put those two together, you've got a winning combination on the web.
You don't need the money of like Hollywood production. You don't need all those bells and whistles, and you can actually entertain somebody very well on a really small screen with a very funny idea and some good performances.
Superman.
I don't see anything.
Might be under Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. Man of Steel. Oh yeah, Man of Steel. Right here. This way.
Man of Steel. Why do you do that? Want to sit by the kitchen?
No.
No, you don't.
Somebody like Jerry Seinfeld and the relationship he's got with American Express, and the fact that he's a pop cultural icon of comedy. Of course, if he groups up with Superman and makes him, a fun series of films, people are going to tune into that just as much as they're going to tune into anything.
Excuse me, Superman?
Yes.
I don't know if you remember me, Barry Katz. You saved my life once. I was hanging from a train trestle.
Yeah, sure. How are you?
Oh, terrific, great. I don't want to interrupt your meal. I just wanted to say thanks again.
No, not a problem. It's good to see you again, Barry.
He's the best. You're good, too.
Thank you.
Who is that? No idea.
If someone is surfing on the internet, they want to be there. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to buy anything to get there. And since a lot of the experiences that one has on the internet, especially when it comes to entertainment, is actually viral, it's been sent to you. It's a perfect place for this kind of format.
Oh yes, Wyoming.
See now, this is what we should have seen.
What's wrong with you? Of course they only put up the good ones. Every play does that.
No, that's Joel Siegel. I usually trust him. Oh yes, Wyoming. One song after another.
Wow. They're like classic Seinfeld moments, with the Man of Steel. So it's been nothing but laughter.
Hey! That guy just stole my DVD player!
What, am I not here?
There's been dozens of styles of Superman over the years, but the one that Seinfeld was particularly interested in was a legendary DC Comics drawer, Kurt Swan. Kurt Swan drew Superman through the 50s, 60s, even well into the 80s. And that was the sort of old school style that he was looking for. Very manly, but not too kind of hunky, pre-Christopher Reeves.
The entire production was done as if it could be a desktop application. The cameras were shot with DV cameras, consumer-grade DV cameras, animated, in an off-the-shelf Macromedia flash.
Hello?
Superman.
Yes. Thanks, Sal.
We wound up doing, almost 14 minutes of animation, in a live action environment where we could change the performances and really completely adopt new ideas throughout the production and see it editorially come together.
So what happened here?
The guy threw it at me, it bounced off, hit the ground.
Why didn't you just catch it?
I don't do that. I do this.
Whatever.
A television commercial might cost $500,000, and it might cost $15 million to run. You know, and the media dollars are so expensive, and they're so, you know, it's so hard to actually track the results of the media dollars spent. You know, whereas you put in, you put the same amount of money, or actually maybe even 10% of that money, into a very creative, you know, webisodic initiative. You know, that you can absolutely pinpoint and track, you know, the interaction with the consumer with. You know, why wouldn't you do that?
You may be invulnerable to physical harm, but I'm invulnerable to damage, theft, or things bouncing off of a superhero's chest within 90 days of purchase. Yeah.
It certainly gives the advertisers, the ones who are selling image, who are selling lifestyle, or selling like emotional connections to brands.
Oh!
Sorry.
Very nice.
Like, it gives them an opportunity to really stretch their wings and, you know, and essentially, you know, hit a pop cultural pulse that they may have done in advertising, but now they can do it in a way that's unprecedented.
Oh yes, Wyoming, with the trees and the horses and the rocks and the sheep. Oh yes.
Don't play games with me, roundy man. Just who are you working with? Homestar Runaway? Sounds like a no good nick to me.
It's a website of cartoons that me and my brother started about 4 years ago from a concept that me and a friend came up with in 1996.
What's the concept?
Well, I mean, it's just a children's story that we wrote in 1996 of this kind of naive, lovable, you know, character.
Welcome to me, Homestar Wano. Homestar Wano. What else?
He's gotten dumber over the years. Originally, he wasn't so naive. But anyway, and the evil antagonist, who's not very evil, who's just kind of like more like a bully.
I am called Strongbad. Hand over all your monies in a paper and or plastic bag. Ladies, form a line to my left for makeouts. Dudes, form a line to my right for high fives.
Then in 2000, we made the website and have been making cartoons for the last 4.5 years.
I was working in customer service at the time, and Mike was just out of school, and so Mike was staying home, and he'd learn Flash, and then when I'd come home at night, Mike would teach me what he learned, and then we'd mess around with it, and then, so during the day, Mike stayed home and learned Flash, and then he'd show me what he had learned.
What's going on here? What happened to my website?
The system is down, yo.
Oh, the system.
I think the fact that we had no background helped us out because we didn't know the limits. I think when you're, when you're sort of trained in something, then you're like, oh, well, you can't do that. Don't try that.
All we needed was the bang. Oh, no, we've been found out. Oh, no, we... Oh, no, we've been found out.
Matt and I grew up in a family of 5 kids, and he and I are the 2 youngest, and we were always making movies or, little comic books or, sitting there drawing, doing whatever.
Half the characters don't have all their limbs, and none of them are, only a couple of them are even remotely human. Many of them don't have mouths. Yeah, people thought that we did that on purpose to make them easier to animate.
Check it out, 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 check it out.
Whoa, check it out.
If we make new characters, we'd probably make them with no hands and mouths or eyes. Just a big white circle. Walks around and hangs out with the other guys.
It's pretty much 50-50. Matt does all the voices, and we split up the writing and the animating, and generally when Matt's doing the voices, I'm doing illustrating any new drawings for the cartoon. So I do a little bit more illustration work, but other than that, it's 50-50 in terms of writing and animating and all that stuff.
So this is where we do all of the recording of the voices for the cartoons. And here, let's see here.
Oh, I'm pretty much here every week. It's just that usually I'm behind the black.
Well, I guess I should look to my right more often.
I think I live here.
I don't think so. If you lived here, you'd have less non-broken bones and more crushed spirits.
The thing we hated about every other website was that it has banner ads. I mean, it's been the problem of the internet since we've been on it. You're never going to get sort of immersed in this world or attached to these characters with pop-up ads and banner ads, you know, changing like all the time around it and stuff. And so if it ever came down to like, you know, to where it got too expensive and we were faced with that, I mean, we don't even consider that an option.
You.
It's not about MTV, it's not about it trying to be commercially viable, it's just about, I mean, it's always been about making ourselves and our friends laugh.
If you think of a photographer having to lug around the plates, the chemicals on horseback, or however they were getting from point A to point B, it's hardly like today where we put on a Velcro pack, grab our digital camera, jump on a plane, and we're there.
Why don't we examine the turn of the 19th into the 20th century at the dawn of photography and compare that to some very contemporary works drawn from the turn of this last century, the 20th into the 21st. The show isn't really focused necessarily on process. We started there as an idea, but then it got much more interesting as an exhibition to deal with the visual comparisons and qualities and ideas that artists have about subjects that were similar in the turn of the 19th into the 20th century and in contemporary times. All through the history of painting, we know artists like Monet that painted haystacks at different times of year, or the facade of Rouen Cathedral. And here he's photographing a glacier over a period of time and different seasons. Come over here and photograph a couple of these salt prints of glaciers, and you see how long we've been fascinated with that. And this sequencing of an image, this idea of almost in a way telling a story by having multiple images, made us think of the wonderful grouping of photographs, very sobering photographs, of the Lincoln conspirators. These are made with a camera obscura, and that's why you see a reversal of the sign in the final photograph. And they are a very a method of making an image that really dates back to use by Vermeer. And this is a complete fake. In other words, the artist here has made a model of a building, all the way down to little tiny stones, and even creating a look as if the weather has worn away parts of the building to make this model. And then he photographs this, and then the model is destroyed. So the final result is the photograph, not the model.
These were used to create a booklet about child labor under the guise of going into these factories to take images of the machinery. He actually was documenting unfair labor practices against children.
these girls who've clearly engaged in a mud bath or a contemporary ritual of some sort, and bathing beauties, hand-tinted again, silver prints that are hand-tinted. And then very naughty photographs, you probably can't even show them on television, poses that you wouldn't really expect in that time period. Throughout the whole history of photography, you have interest in similar subjects, and you work out technically and formally some of the same sorts of solutions, but maybe the intention behind a similar subject could be very different depending on the time in which it was taken.
We are a research institute. We specialize in research into the visual arts. So the way we do that is we invite really wonderful artists here to work with us. In our studios, we have great master printers and artisans, and we work together with the artists to create artwork.
That would be a print. The real object is something like this, you know? That would be the complete, the sandal. As a object is a map of Havana, east and west.
When Fox Talbot invented the positive negative form of photography, and also, of course, Daguerre in 1839, people were then immediately looking for ways of mass photomechanically reproducing imagery. These are Fox Talbot's first photogravures. These are extremely rare. We have here in this case the earliest known cyanotype. This was a book that Alfred Stieglitz used to establish photography as a fine art at the turn of the 19th century.
The 19th, 20th century work, that was the crisis in photography. Photography was not considered a fine art, as was painting or sculpture.
I think that the view of Baudelaire was pretty prevalent, where he called it a handmaiden to the arts. That since it was made by a machine, it couldn't really be an art form.